Tales from the Darkness.
Turn left. Heavy rain pelted against the window of Alex's beat-up car as he squinted against the gloom that was being feebly illuminated by the aged headlights. Muttering curses, he gripped the steering wheel and fumed at the fact that his boss had forced him to work late hours, causing him to drive home in the rain at night. He hated driving in the rain. It only made the challenging drive along the narrow mountain road even more treacherous, but he'd done it before, and he'd do it again. Suddenly, Alex saw something that brought his car to a screeching stop on the slick road. There was a little girl, unusually pale and highlighted by the high beams of the car, standing on the side of the road just outside of the car lane. Overcoming his shock, he wheeled his car gently forward, rolling down his window to talk to the child. "Hey, you gave me quite a shock. What are you doing out here in the middle of nowhere all by yourself?" he asked, trying to sound more cheery and good-natured than he felt. "Waiting," the girl replied, her voice low and, for an unidentifiable reason, slightly creepy. "Waiting? For what?" he asked. "The bus," she replied simply, as Alec leaned out the window and turned his gaze upward to realize that there was in fact a weather-beaten bus stop sign just a few feet from the girl. It was almost illegible due to rust and the paint peeling. "I don't think the bus runs here anymore. Do you live far from here? I could give you a ride," he suggested. The girl nodded and wordlessly opened the car door and climbed into the passenger seat. Alex started the car. They drove in silence for a few miles when suddenly the girl broke the uncomfortable quiet. "We're not far from where I live now." Alec looked around. "Are you sure? There aren't any road signs or landmarks or stuff," he trailed off. "I'm sure," she replied. A few minutes later, after more silence, the girl spoke again. "My stop is just ahead," she said quietly. "If you say so," Alex muttered, uncertain as to whether or not they were going the right way. Suddenly, a bend on the road leading to the right came into view in the distance. "Turn left. My stop is to the left," said the girl. Alec looked at her strangely. "Kid, I don't think you know your directions," he said, eyeing the girl. "That turn goes to the right." "I know that. Turn left," the girl said, a slightly angry tone creeping into her voice. "Alec, I'm not turning left. Sorry, but you can't possibly live down there. It's nothing but a ravine," he snapped. The girl snapped her head around to face Alec, her face contorted in anger, and her previously ice-blue eyes were now a haunted purple. "I said, turn left," she screamed. Suddenly, the steering wheel was wrenched out of Alec's hands, sending the car careening through the guardrail and over the edge of the cliff. As Alec lay dying in the mangled wreckage, he saw a second car at the bottom of the ravine. The bodies of a young girl and her parents were inside. The Hook Man. One summer night, a teenage boy was going out on a date with his new girlfriend. He picked her up at her house and they drove out to the edge of town. They parked the car in a secluded spot that was well known as Lover's Lane. As they gazed out at the lights of the town, the boy put his arm around the girl and switched on the car radio so they could listen to some romantic music. He leaned over and the young couple began kissing and cuddling. Just as they were getting into the mood, the music suddenly stopped and a newsreader's voice came on the radio. "This is an emergency announcement. Earlier tonight, a crazed murderer escaped from the state mental asylum. Police are warning citizens to be on their guard since the patient is considered armed and dangerous. The insane killer is nicknamed the Hook Man because after he lost his right hand in an accident, it was replaced with a steel hook. Everyone in the area should be on the lookout for a man fitting this description. If you see anything suspicious, you should report it to the police immediately." The girl became frightened and asked to be taken home. She knew that the state insane asylum was not far from the Lover's Lane. She was also worried that the remote area where they were parked was the perfect spot for a deranged madman to lurk. The boy was feeling brave and reassured his girlfriend that they were perfectly safe. He locked all the car doors, then tried to kiss her again. The girl became frantic and pushed him away, insisting that they leave immediately. In a huff, the boy slammed the car into gear and spun its wheels as he pulled out of the parking space. On the way back to town, they both calmed down, but the girl still held on tightly to her boyfriend. When they pulled up outside the girl's house, the boy got out of the car and walked around to open the door for his girlfriend. For a long time, he just stood there, staring at the door. At first, the girl couldn't figure out what was wrong. Then she realized that her door was still locked. She smiled and unlocked it. Still, the boy just stood there. The girl was puzzled and rolled down her window. Then she saw that the boy was staring down at the door handle. Slowly, she looked down herself and began to scream uncontrollably. There, hanging from the door handle, was a bloody, stainless steel hook. Liar, liar. If anything about Damien was certain, it was that you couldn't trust him with anything. His lies, his big mouth, and his all-around shady character drove everyone away. His parents never really cared about him. They'd always wanted a girl, and as soon as he was old enough, he got kicked out of the house. They had been anything but a good example for him. But even so, he somehow only got worse from there. He was 29, going on 30 in a month, and his whole life he had never had a real friend. Everyone who had tried to reach out to him, thinking maybe he was just misunderstood, was quickly and efficiently proven wrong. He never had a friend. Until that day. Everyone in town knows this story. We've all found out somehow. They met in the strangest of places, an old cemetery, in the rain, if you can't believe something like that. He had been going there to smoke, having just been fired from yet another job. She was going there to visit a grave, unmarked, to lay a single, stunningly black rose in front of it. It happened to be just the grave he was sitting on, cursing and trying to light his hopelessly damp cigarette. She liked him immediately, the story goes, if that is even possible, liking so uncomfortable a person, but they quickly took to dating. Luna, her name was. Luna, as it turned out, lived in a small house near the edge of town. Damien always wanted to see her house, but she was so strange, she always avoided the question. One day, he brought her a gift, a necklace. No one knows how he ever got the money for it, probably robbed some rich old lady in the alley, but the necklace was really something special. A silver chain with a pendant of a silver snake wrapped around an emerald that seemed almost alive. She loved that necklace, never took it off. One day, they were going to visit the place where they met. I found out this bit straight from the source. My brother saw what happened. They walked together right up to the gravestone where it all started, and they were just holding each other, looking at the moon, when all of a sudden she says to him, "Do you want to know my secret?" And that rat Damien, he loves nothing more than a secret he can tell. So of course, he says yes. And she leaned right in and whispered something in his ear. She was whispering a long time, and when she finally leaned away, my brother says that he will never forget the look on Damien's face. He was so horrified, my brother told me, would give you goosebumps just to look at him. But then it passed, and after a while, she looked at him and said, "Promise me you will never tell a soul." "I promise," he said. What a liar, because 2 days later, there was a call to the police station. It was Damien, and he was scared. I know because I work at the police station, and I picked up the phone that night. "You have to help me," he whispered into the phone, terrified. He sounded like he was going insane. "You just have to help me, please." Calm down, I replied. "I can't calm down," he screamed. "She's going to kill me. I know her secret." "Okay, fine. What is this big secret?" I asked, deciding to humor what I was sure was Damien overreacting, or Damien just plain old acting. On the other end of the phone, I heard the sound of a door opening in the background. She found me. Oh God, she found me. Oh God. And then he screamed. You promised, whispered a feminine voice on the phone, and the line went dead. I didn't find out what had happened for a while, but I got help right away, and the folks I work with eventually got what we knew of the story to me. No one ever saw Luna again. All we ever found of her was that necklace Damien got her, covered in blood, on top of the gravestone she liked to visit. The dirt under the gravestone looked freshly disturbed. As for Damien, by the time the police got to his ugly little apartment, he was dead. His body was completely mutilated and there was blood everywhere. Some sicko had written on the walls with it too. All the walls, just the same word, over and over. Liar, 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 liar.